Marcus Vale stepped from the transport onto polished marble. He felt the weight of every eye on him. His uniform was plain earth green, now faded and marked with dust. His boots clicked against the floor as he walked toward the high throne. Soldiers from 2 worlds lined the hall, standing as still as statues. The hall was vast and bright. Tall windows let in white sunlight that washed over carved pillars. Banners of deep blue and silver hung from the ceiling. Each banner showed the symbol of the Terathian Empire, a rising star with 6 points. Marcus had studied their history for weeks. He knew what this symbol meant. It stood for hope, power, and unity among the stars. At the far end of the hall, the throne rose on a wide dais. It was made of smooth black stone and shaped like a crescent moon. Seated upon it was Queen Lisray. She wore robes of soft white silk that belted at her waist with a band of silver. Her skin was pale gold, and her eyes were dark pools that seemed to see everything. She sat very still, but her gaze held Marcus firmly. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. He had served on many battlefields. He had led scores of men and women into danger, but nothing prepared him for this moment. He had come at the Queen's invitation, yet he did not know what lay ahead. As he reached the edge of the dais, he stopped. His hands rested at his sides. He cleared his throat. Around him, the crowd held its breath. "I am Marcus Vale," he said, his voice steady though his heart raced. "I stand by your call." The Queen rose. The silk of her robes whispered against the stone. Her posture was perfect, her presence calm and strong. She lowered her hand in a slow, graceful gesture. The crowd sank into deeper silence. Marcus heard her words as a faint echo at first. Then the hall grew still enough that he heard them clearly. "Marcus Vale," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Do you remember you saved my life?" He blinked. Her question reached into a memory he had almost buried. He remembered heat, smoke, and the sound of distant explosions. He remembered pulling the wounded alien officer free from burning wreckage. He remembered seeing fear in her eyes, fear born of pain and loss. He pressed his lips together. He bowed his head, though all he felt was surprise. "Yes, Your Majesty," he replied. "I remember." Her dark eyes softened for a moment, and the faintest hint of a smile touched her lips. Around them, the nobles shifted with quiet wonder. The soldier from Earth stood before the Queen who owed him her life. It was a moment none would forget. Marcus straightened. He met her gaze without flinching. The silence held them both, bound by a memory of courage and chance. In that hush, he felt a new path open. For himself, for her people, and for all who would walk between their worlds. Marcus Vale bowed his head and forced his mind to the memory. Instantly, he was back on that scorched battlefield. The sky was streaked with orange smoke. Broken starships lay in twisted heaps across the sands. Concrete pillars, once part of a grand city, lay shattered like fallen giants. He saw her then, an alien officer, her white uniform torn and stained with blood. She lay under a heavy beam of metal, her breathing shallow. Around her, enemy soldiers closed in, their blasters sending sparks into the ground. Marcus did not think twice. He dropped into a low crouch and pushed at the beam with all his strength. It shifted only a little. He gripped the edges and braced his boots. With one loud effort, he rolled the beam aside. She gasped for air. Marcus scanned the area. Enemy troops were only meters away. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the nearest rock outcrop. The beam of a blaster cut a line of fire across the sand. Without warning, an enemy trooper lunged at them. Marcus threw himself over her body. Pain flared in his shoulder as a blast caught his jacket, but the heavy padding under his uniform saved him. He dragged the officer behind the rock. She lay still, blood pooling on the ground. Marcus tore open his field pack and wrapped a bandage around her arm. He spoke to her in broken Terathian, a language he had studied but never used in real life. "Stay with me," he said. "Help is coming." Her golden eyes flickered open. Pain and fear showed in her gaze, but recognition came next. Suddenly, a larger explosion rocked the area. The enemy troopers staggered and dropped their weapons. Marcus pushed himself up and hoisted the officer to her feet. Together, they ran toward the rally point where Allied ships hovered overhead. Twice more, Marcus shielded her from falling debris and enemy fire. Each time, his heart pounded, but he never faltered. At the edge of the battlefield, a transport hovered, its engines a comforting hum. Marcus guided her inside. Within the shuttle, medics rushed forward. She sat quietly as they treated her wounds. Before the door closed, she reached out and gripped his arm. "Shalray," she whispered, her name and a word that meant thank you in simple Xerathian. Marcus nodded and stepped back. The doors sealed and the ship lifted away. The memory ended as suddenly as it began. Marcus blinked. He was back in the marble hall, sunlight streaming through tall windows. The nobles waited in tense silence. Queen Lizrai watched him with those deep, dark eyes. Marcus straightened and met her gaze fully awake. He heard the soft rustle of silk as she shifted on her throne. Around him, the soldiers from Earth and Xerathia exchanged quiet looks. None spoke. Marcus inhaled slowly. He felt the weight of that day, of danger and of choice. He felt the bond it created between him and the Queen. He lifted his head, ready for whatever came next. The hush in the grand hall held him. In that moment, he knew that memory was not just his own. It tied their fates together, and the path forward would be forever changed by what he had done on that broken world. Marcus Vale remained on the days long after the memory faded. He felt every pair of eyes in the hall turn back to him. Some faces held respect, others held doubt. Whispers drifted like soft wind through the tall pillars. He bowed his head once more, and a guard motioned for him to follow. He stepped down from the dais and walked along a side corridor carved with scenes of old Xerathian victories. The corridor opened into a grand antechamber. Along its walls hung rich tapestries in blue and silver. Each tapestry showed a moment in Xerathian history. First contact with distant worlds, great battles, and times of peace. Marcus paused to study one. It showed two figures, one human, one alien, standing side by side under a star. He pressed his hand to his chest. He felt the weight of that shared moment. A line of Xerathian officers stood at attention. Beyond them, Earth soldiers in plain green uniforms watched closely. Marcus walked between the two ranks. He nodded to each soldier, Earth and Xerathian alike. A few returned his nod. Others looked away. He sensed the tension. These two worlds had fought side by side. Yet trust took time. At the far end of the chamber, a long table waited. Smooth white cloth covered its length. Bowls of fruit from distant planets, fresh bread from Earth ovens, and plates of steaming meat sat ready. Marcus paused at the table's edge. He did not know Xerathian food. He wondered if he could eat it without mistake. He straightened his shoulders and walked forward. Queen Lizrai entered behind him. Her white silk robes flowed with each step. She carried herself with quiet strength. The crowd fell silent again. She moved to the table's head and raised a tall cup of pale blue liquid. She turned to Marcus and smiled, just a small curve of her lips, but full of warmth. "Marcus Vale," she said clearly, her dark eyes bright. "Please join us." Marcus bowed low. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he replied. He took the seat just to her right. The hall felt smaller now, as if all the air pressed close around him. He caught sight of the nobles at the far side. They whispered in low tones. Some shook their heads. Others tapped scrolls on the table. Silence held until the Queen lifted her cup. "To courage and to new friendship," she said. Glass rang softly as each guest touched theirs to the table. Marcus lifted his cup with steady hands. He drank the pale blue wine. It tasted of sweet herbs and cold rain. He set the cup down and felt eyes on him again. Servants moved among the guests, offering food. Marcus took a piece of soft bread and broke it in two. He offered half to the Sarathian officer beside him. The officer accepted with a nod and offered him a taste of spiced fruit. Marcus smiled and ate it. The bright flavor surprised him. He swallowed and said, "It is very good." The officer bowed, and the two shared a small, honest moment of peace. When the feast ended, the queen stood. "Marcus Vale, you honor us by being here," she said. Then she spoke low, so only he could hear. "Your journey does not end at my court. I need your help again soon." Marcus met her gaze. He bowed deeply. "I am yours to command, Your Majesty." Around them, the hall held its breath, and Marcus knew that his true test was only just beginning. Marcus Vale left the grand hall with careful steps. He felt eyes following him. Some nobles exchanged quiet glances. He sensed something in their looks: doubt, jealousy, fear of change. He kept his face calm and walked toward the private council chamber. The corridor was narrower here. Torches lined the walls, casting shifting shadows on smooth stone. Marcus paused by an arched window. He looked out over the palace gardens. Moonlight dusted the flowering trees in silver. He breathed deep, trying to steady his thoughts. He had earned the queen's trust, but others in the court did not share her view. A soft knock sounded on the heavy wooden door ahead. A voice from within called, "Enter." Marcus pushed the door open and stepped inside. The council chamber was quiet and dim. A long table stood in its center. Around it, senior ministers sat stiffly. Their robes were dark blue trimmed with silver, the same colors as the banners in the great hall. At the head of the table stood Queen Lizrai, her white robes bright against the dark room. She held a scroll in one pale gold hand. Marcus closed the door behind him and approached. As he drew near, two ministers exchanged worried looks. One minister, tall and thin, muttered under his breath. The other, shorter and rounder, tapped a finger on the table. Lizrai held up the scroll. "These are reports from my spies," she said, her voice low but clear. "They say some here doubt our alliance with Earth." She swept her gaze across the room. "They spread lies, saying the human soldier seeks power at my side." A murmur rose among the ministers. Marcus stiffened. He did not want to cause trouble. He bowed his head. "Your Majesty, I wish only to serve." The tall minister stood. "Your Majesty," he said, voice echoing, "we respect Marcus Vale's courage, but the High Council fears giving one human too much influence. Our people need Sarathian leaders, not Earth outsiders." The queen's dark eyes flashed. She held the scroll tight. "On the battlefield, Marcus saved my life. Without him, I would have died. Do you deny that I owe him this debt?" Her voice filled the room. Silence returned. The round minister cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, we owe you our lives too. But this is a matter of our empire's future. We must be careful." Lizrai folded the scroll. "Careful, yes, but not cowards. I stand by my choice." She took a slow step toward Marcus. "Marcus Vale, you have my trust. The council's fear is strong, but mine is stronger." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. He met her gaze. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will prove my loyalty." The queen turned back to the ministers. "Your task is to protect this empire. Mine is to guide it to peace. We will work together. Any who wish to block that path will speak no more." A long pause passed. Then the tall minister bowed his head. "As you command, Your Majesty." The others followed. Lizrai motioned to Marcus. "Walk with me in the gardens. I wish to speak more." He bowed and joined her. As they left the chamber, Marcus glanced back. The ministers watched him go, minds full of questions. He felt their doubt, but he also felt the queen's unwavering faith in him. Outside, moonlight awaited them, and beyond the palace, new challenges waited too. Marcus knew his path would be hard, but he would face it with the same courage that bound him to the alien queen. Marcus Vale left the grand hall with careful steps. He felt eyes following him. Some nobles exchanged quiet glances. He sensed something in their looks: doubt, jealousy, fear of change. He kept his face calm and walked toward the private council chamber. The corridor was narrower here. Torches lined the walls, casting shifting shadows on smooth stone. Marcus paused by an arched window. He looked out over the palace gardens. Moonlight dusted the flowering trees in silver. He breathed deep, trying to steady his thoughts. He had earned the queen's trust, but others in the court did not share her view. A soft knock sounded on the heavy wooden door ahead. A voice from within called, "Enter." Marcus pushed the door open and stepped inside. The council chamber was quiet and dim. A long table stood in its center. Around it, senior ministers sat stiffly. Their robes were dark blue trimmed with silver, the same colors as the banners in the great hall. At the head of the table stood Queen Lizrai, her white robes bright against the dark room. She held a scroll in one pale gold hand. Marcus closed the door behind him and approached. As he drew near, two ministers exchanged worried looks. One minister, tall and thin, muttered under his breath. The other, shorter and rounder, tapped a finger on the table. Lizrai held up the scroll. "These are reports from my spies," she said, her voice low but clear. "They say some here doubt our alliance with Earth." She swept her gaze across the room. "They spread lies, saying the human soldier seeks power at my side." A murmur rose among the ministers. Marcus stiffened. He did not want to cause trouble. He bowed his head. "Your Majesty, I wish only to serve." The tall minister stood. "Your Majesty," he said, voice echoing, "we respect Marcus Vale's courage, but the High Council fears giving one human too much influence. Our people need Sarathian leaders, not Earth outsiders." The Queen's dark eyes flashed. She held the scroll tight. "On the battlefield, Marcus saved my life. Without him, I would have died. Do you deny that I owe him this debt?" Her voice filled the room. Silence returned. The round minister cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, we owe you our lives too. But this is a matter of our empire's future. We must be careful." Lizrai folded the scroll. "Careful, yes, but not cowards. I stand by my choice." She took a slow step toward Marcus. "Marcus Vale, you have my trust. The council's fear is strong, but mine is stronger." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. He met her gaze. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will prove my loyalty." The Queen turned back to the ministers. "Your task is to protect this empire. Mine is to guide it to peace. We will work together. Any who wish to block that path will speak no more." A long pause passed. Then the tall minister bowed his head. "As you command, Your Majesty." The others followed. Lizrai motioned to Marcus. "Walk with me in the gardens. I wish to speak more." He bowed and joined her. As they left the chamber, Marcus glanced back. The ministers watched him go, minds full of questions. He felt their doubt, but he also felt the Queen's unwavering faith in him. Outside, moonlight awaited them. And beyond the palace, new challenges waited too. Marcus knew his path would be hard, but he would face it with the same courage that bound him to the alien queen. Marcus Vale and Queen Lizrai stepped into the palace gardens. The night air smelled of jasmine and wet stone. Lanterns glowed softly along the curved paths. Flowers of blue and white nodded in the light breeze. The queen moved with quiet grace, and Marcus followed at her side. They reached a small bridge over a koi pond. Colorful fish glided under the dark water. Lizrai stopped and looked down. Marcus stood beside her, hands clasped behind his back. "I called you here," she said softly, "to know you beyond the battlefield." Her pale gold eyes searched his face. Marcus bowed his head. "I am honored, Your Majesty." She smiled faintly. "Tell me, Marcus Vale, what drives you to help an alien empire?" Her question held no accusation, only real curiosity. He thought for a moment. The lantern light made shadows on his face. When I saw you wounded, I saw a life, no matter where it came from. In war, we learn the value of life. I helped you because it was right, and I stay because I believe in a better future for both our peoples." Lizrai considered his words. "You speak simply and with honesty. That is rare in a court." She turned and walked along the path. Marcus followed. They passed rows of glowing white lilies. Beyond them, a statue of the first Cerathian queen stood tall, sword in hand, gaze lifted to the sky. "Look at her," Lizrai said, pointing. She faced impossible odds. She forged peace through strength and wisdom. She paused. "That is the path I choose. And now, I ask you to walk it with me." Marcus stopped. "I will, Your Majesty." She studied him, as if weighing her final decision. Then she reached out and placed a gentle hand on his arm. "In 3 days, we ride to the border world of Varric Ida. There, the frontier governors plan to rebel." Her voice hardened. "They question our rule. They see you as a threat. I want you by my side when I meet them." Marcus bowed. "I understand. I will be ready." Lizrai led him back toward the palace entrance. "Good. Tomorrow, you will train with my guard. Learn our customs and tactics. They respect strength and honor. Show them you have both." He nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty." As they walked, Marcus felt the cool night wind on his face. He thought of home, Earth, with its blue oceans and green forests. He thought of the men and women he left behind. He wondered if he had done right by leaving them. But beside him, Lizrai's steady presence wrapped around him like a promise. They reached the palace steps. She stopped and looked at him. "Rest well tonight," she said. "Our journey will be long and hard." Marcus bowed once more. "Thank you, Your Majesty." She turned and ascended the steps alone. Marcus remained below, gazing up at her silhouette against the glowing windows. Then he turned and walked back into the palace, mind alive with plans and questions. The night would not bring sleep easily. His path with the alien queen had begun, and every step would shape the fate of 2 worlds. Marcus Vale rose with first light. He dressed in fresh uniform, brown tunic, dark trousers, and sturdy boots. His helmet under his arm felt heavy, but he knew its weight was purpose. Today, he would train with the Queen's Guard. He stepped into the training yard behind the palace. The yard was wide and dusty, ringed by high walls, and lined with weapons racks. Dozens of Cerathian guards practiced drills with elegant silver spears. Their movements were swift and precise, like dancers under the sun. A tall officer with stern eyes approached. He wore armor polished to a mirror sheen. "Marcus Vale," he said in clipped Cerathian, his voice sharp. "I am Commander Talarin. Today, you learn our guard's way." Marcus bowed. "Thank you, Commander. I am ready." Talarin eyed him. "We start with spear work." He tapped Marcus's forearm. A guard handed Marcus a spear. It was light in his hands, balanced with perfect precision. "Grip here," Talarin said, positioning Marcus's hands. "Stance strong. Feet shoulder width. Knees bend." Marcus followed. He felt the spear's cool metal against his palms. Talarin guided him through basic thrust and block drills. Marcus moved carefully, matching each motion. The sun climbed, and sweat soaked his tunic, but he kept focus. After an hour, Talarin nodded. "Good. Next, shield and sword." Guards swapped the spear for a round shield and short blade. Marcus learned to parry then counterattack. His earth training came into play. He deflected a blade thrust and struck back. Talarin barked praise. "Human skill," Talarin said. "Not bad." Marcus nodded. "Thank you." Midday horn sounded. The guards broke for water and rest. Marcus drank deeply from a leather canteen. Around him, guards compared notes in low voices. Some faces showed respect. Others still held out. Commander Talarin approached again. "Your Majesty invited you here to learn." But our frontier battle will also test your mind. He pointed to a group of rank officers studying a holomap under a canopy. Come, Talleyrand said. Observe our council practice. Marcus followed. Under the canopy, 3 lieutenants traced lines on the glowing map of Viewership. They discussed troop placements and supply routes in fast Xerathian. Marcus listened, straining to catch words he recognized. Talleyrand whispered, "They plan. You watch how we think, or." A lieutenant spotted him. "Human soldier," she said, voice low. "Do you understand our words?" Marcus shook his head. He bowed. "Not yet, ma'am. But I wish to learn." She studied him but said nothing more. Marcus watched as they drew new lines, flank maneuvers, ambush points, safe corridors for civilians. He noted their care for noncombatants. At home, plans often ignored such details. When the session ended, Talleyrand spoke. "You see how we prepare. Next, you will help us plan for Viewership. Your perspective of Earth strategies could help." Marcus felt honor rise in his chest. "I will do my best, Commander." Talleyrand studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Good. Tonight, we feast with the Queen. Rest well, human soldier. Tomorrow, we begin council work." Marcus nodded and saluted. He returned to his quarters, mind alive with spear techniques, council strategies, and the weight of 2 worlds' hopes. As he cleaned his blades, he thought of the journey ahead, and of the bond growing between him and the alien queen. Marcus Vale woke before dawn. He dressed quickly and took his short blade. Today, he would join the council meeting to plan the journey to Viewership. He felt a mix of nerves and purpose as he left his quarters. The council chamber was brighter now. Morning light streamed through high windows. Queen Lizrai sat at the head of the long table. Around her stood Commander Talleyrand and 4 senior officers. A holomap of the border world glowed between them. Marcus stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, I am here." She smiled and nodded. "Good. We begin." An officer touched the map. Viewership has 3 major cities along the river. Rebels hold the eastern city of Torrid. We must cut their supply lines. Marcus studied the map. He recalled Earth tactics, block roads, disrupt communications, protect civilians. When the officer paused, he spoke. "On Earth," Marcus said, "we send small teams to cut supplies at night. We also build safe zones for civilians near main roads. That way, we win hearts and minds." The officers turned to him, surprise on their faces. Talleyrand gave a slight nod. Queen Lizrai's eyes brightened. "Explain more," Lizrai said. Marcus pointed at a narrow pass north of Torrid. "We send raiding teams to the pass under cover of darkness. They seize the rebel convoys there. Then we set up shelters along the river for families. If we help the people, they will not join the rebels." A senior officer frowned. "Our forces are few. We must move fast." Marcus met his gaze. Small teams can move faster at night. 5 to 8 soldiers each. They strike, then vanish. Our main force waits ready. When the rebels weaken, we move in daylight. Lizrai pressed her hand to the map. "I like this. We need speed and care for the innocent." The officers nodded. They adjusted plans, drawing new lines on the holomap. Marcus watched as the strategy took shape. He felt pride, knowing his words mattered. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Plans finalized. Lizrai rose. "Marcus Vale, your insight is valuable. You will lead one of the raiding teams." Marcus bowed deeply. "I am honored, Your Majesty." Talleyrand spoke next. "Your team will include 4 Xerathian guards and 2 Earth soldiers. You leave at dusk. Prepare now." Marcus nodded. He stepped back and headed for the armory. In the armory, he found his 2 Earth comrades, Staff Sergeants Riley and Chen, checking weapons. Riley grinned. "Ready for your first big mission in alien land?" Marcus chuckled. "As ready as I'll ever be." Chen laid out packs of supplies. "We heard the plan. Night raids, rescue zones. Sounds good. Marcus checked his gear. He strapped on light armor and secured his blade. He chose a small torch and a silent pistol. He packed medical supplies and rations. At noon, Marcus met his Xarathian guards. They were quiet, serious soldiers. Victor, a tall guard with a scar, introduced himself. "I serve under you, human." Marcus bowed slightly. "Thank you, Victor. We move at night. Stay close and follow orders." Victor nodded. "Yes." As sun climbed high, Marcus felt the weight of the day. Soon, he would ride with the alien queen's banner into rebel lands. He thought of Lizray's trust and the people waiting for help. With every step, he carried hope across two worlds. When dusk fell, he would lead warriors into darkness and into history. Marcus Vale waited in the courtyard as the sun dipped low. Shadows stretched across the stone floor. 4 Xarathian guards checked spears and comms gear. 2 Earth soldiers adjusted their night vision goggles. Marcus felt the quiet tension in the air. Tonight's mission would test them all. Commander Talarin approached. His armor gleamed in torchlight. "Marcus Vale," he said, voice low. "You lead your team here. The Queen rides with the main force. You move ahead to the pass." Marcus bowed. "Understood, Commander." Talarin placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Trust your instincts. Stay hidden until you strike." Marcus nodded. He looked at his team. Riley, Chen, Victor, Saren, Keela, and Harthal. Each stood ready, faces serious but calm. He spoke softly. "Team, we head north to the Ember Pass. Move in 2 groups. Earth soldiers with Victor and Saren on the left, Xarathians with me on the right. We meet at the old watchtower. Signal with the blue flare." They formed 2 columns and stepped into the dark corridor beyond the courtyard. Torches flickered along the walls, then faded behind them as they passed. Outside, the night air bit at Marcus's skin. He signaled the guards to halt and kneel. Ahead lay the path through dense woodland. Marcus raised a hand. Riley signaled silence. They moved forward, careful and quiet. Crickets chirped and leaves rustled under boots. Cheney scanned ahead with his goggles. "No movement," he whispered. "Safe." They reached the path's fork. 2 guards on each side stayed back, watching. Marcus and 2 Xarathians took the right path. The others went left. He crept forward, using the trees as cover. After 20 minutes, he saw the old watchtower. Its stone walls rose above the trees. Marcus signaled left group. A faint voice answered. He waited. A second flare glowed blue above the tower. He breathed out and led his guards forward. Below the tower, they found crates of supplies, food, ammo, and fuel. 2 rebel convoys stood nearby, heavy trucks and armored carriers. The rebels laughed around a small fire. Marcus raised his hand. In one smooth move, he threw a blue flare into the sky. It burst with soft light. Xarathian troops inside the tower opened the gates and poured down the stairs. At the same time, Riley and Chen crept forward on the left, silencing the guards. The rebels scrambled, reaching for weapons. Marcus surged from cover, spear in hand. He charged, shouting a battle cry. His guards followed. In seconds, the rebels were surrounded. Blaster fire flared, then died as shields dropped. Marcus forced the convoy driver out of his seat and opened the crate. He signaled to Saren. The Xarathians moved the supplies to hidden carts. Civilians emerged from nearby huts, women, children, and elders. Tears filled their eyes when they saw the food and medpacks. Keela called out, "Come forward. You are safe." She guided them toward the river path where safe zones waited. Marcus watched as hope reached their faces. He felt the weight of the mission lift. The rebels lay defeated, tied and awaiting transport. He turned back to his team. They nodded with quiet pride. Soon, the Empire's banner would wave over Varek Aya, and in the dark of this night, a small human-led force had changed the fate of many. Marcus Vale sheathed his spear. The mission had succeeded, and the bond between worlds grew stronger under the stars. Marcus Vale stood by the riverbank at dawn. The sky was pale pink, and mist rose from the water. He watched as Keela and Saren helped refugees into small boats. The rescued families looked tired but relieved. Children clung to mothers, and elders offered quiet thanks. Marcus felt pride that his team had made this possible. Commander Talarin's voice crackled through the comm. "Marcus, report." Marcus checked his device. Supplies delivered. Refugees safe. Convoy secured. No losses. "Good," Talarin replied. "Return to the palace. The Queen awaits your report." Marcus signaled the team. They gathered gear and linked arms in a quick salute. Then they marched back through the forest path, careful not to leave tracks. The sun rose higher, and birds sang above. Marcus felt the calm of success, but knew the work wasn't over. They'd reached the palace gates by midday. Guards escorted them through the grand courtyard. Citizens lined the edges, cheering softly. Marcus nodded respectfully. He spotted Queen Lizrai standing on the dais, flanked by nobles and soldiers. Her pale gold skin glowed in the sun. Marcus and his team stepped forward. Lizrai raised her hand. The crowd fell silent. Marcus bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, the mission succeeded. Supplies reached the people. The rebels are captured. The refugees are safe." The Queen's dark eyes shone. She turned to the nobles. "See what this man has done." Her voice carried across the courtyard. "He showed us how courage and care can win more than force alone." Whispers rose among the nobles. Some nodded in respect. Others lowered their heads, reflecting on their doubt. Lizrai turned back to Marcus. "You have honored us and your people, Marcus Vale." She stepped down and held out her hand. He took it and rose. "Your Majesty," he said, "I serve not for honor, but for peace between our worlds." She smiled warmly. "Then let us make peace together." Behind them, the crowd cheered. Soldiers lifted spears and rifles in salute. Refugees who watched from balconies waved. Marcus felt a surge of hope. After the ceremony, Lizrai led Marcus to a private hall. The nobles dispersed. Commander Talarin followed closely. The Queen offered them water and simple bread. They sat at a low table. She opened a small chest and removed a medal. It was a silver star engraved with 6 points. Xerathia's symbol. Lizrai held it to Marcus's chest. "For bravery, wisdom, and compassion," she said. Marcus accepted the medal with honor. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Queen's expression grew serious. "Our bond is strong now, but the galaxy remains in turmoil. Other worlds watch us. Some will seek war, others offer alliance." She paused. "I want you by my side when I meet the ambassadors of the Orion Confederation." Marcus nodded. "I will be there." Lizrai rose. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow, you sail for Orion. Prepare your mind and heart." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "Together, we will shape a future where humans and Cerathians stand as equals." Marcus looked into her dark eyes. He saw trust and hope. He felt ready for whatever lay ahead. As he left the hall, he carried with him the weight of new responsibilities and the promise of unity between two peoples. The journey was far from over, but at this moment, he knew they could face the stars together. Marcus Vale spent the night in a quiet chamber overlooking the palace gardens. Moonlight filtered through tall windows, casting silver patterns on the floor. He lay awake, thinking of the journey ahead. Tomorrow, he would sail to the Orion Confederation with Queen Lizrai's ambassadors. He wondered what reception awaited him and what challenges he would face. Before dawn, Marcus rose and dressed in a fresh uniform. He packed a small satchel with supplies, the silver star medal tucked safely inside. He took one last walk through the gardens. The jasmine and lilies were silent now, their petals closed against the cool air. He paused by the koi pond, where fish slept in dark water. He whispered a vow, to honor the Queen's trust and to unite their peoples. At first light, the palace courtyard filled with activity. Sailors rolled barrels and tied ropes along the landing platform. A sleek starship, white with blue markings, rested on its pads. Marcus joined Queen Lisrai, Commander Taulerin, and two Cerathian diplomats at the platform's edge. The queen wore a simple traveling cloak, her pale gold skin bright in the sun. She smiled at Marcus. "Are you ready?" she asked gently. Marcus bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty. I stand with you." Taulerin stepped forward. "The Orion Council awaits our arrival. They respect strength, but must see our goodwill." He nodded to Marcus. "Your speech about unity will be vital." Marcus nodded. He felt nervous but determined. He had trusted his training and his courage before. Now he would trust his words. The queen and her party boarded the ship. Marcus took his place beside her. The starship's engines hummed. Below, the citizens waved. Refugees who once feared war now cheered their champions. Marcus returned their salutes. Inside the ship's main cabin, Lisrai placed a hand on Marcus's arm. "Remember, Marcus Vale," she said softly. "We journey for hope." He met her gaze. "Hope," he repeated. The ship lifted smoothly, rising above the palace walls. Through the window, Marcus saw Earth soldiers and Cerathian guards standing together. He felt pride for both worlds. He turned back as the ship jumped to light speed. Hours later, they emerged above the Orion Confederation's capital planet. A ring of city lights circled a blue-green globe. The ambassadors busied themselves, preparing documents and gifts. Marcus studied the view below, imagining the people they would meet. Would they trust a human alongside an alien queen? The ship entered the planet's atmosphere, flames dancing across its hull. It descended to a grand spaceport filled with ships of many designs. As the engines powered down, Marcus felt his heart pound like a drum. The ramp lowered. Lisrai led the way onto the landing platform. Marcus followed, stepping into the unknown. Before him stood a line of Orion officials in varied uniforms. They bowed formally, their voices soft but clear. One official, tall with silver hair, spoke first. "Welcome, Queen Lisrai, an honored human soldier." He paused, eyes on Marcus. "We have heard of your deeds." Marcus bowed. "Thank you. I come to build peace." The Orion leaders exchanged glances, then nodded. They offered seats in a waiting pavilion. Marcus joined Lisrai at the front. The platform was set for a council meeting. As the Orion flags fluttered above, Marcus felt the weight of two worlds on his shoulders. He drew a deep breath. Beside him, the alien queen watched with hope in her eyes. Together, they would speak for unity. Together, they would face the galaxy. And together, a new chapter of peace would begin under distant stars.